What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Gamecite Chronicles, the console gaming podcast where we sit down each and every week to talk about video games. I'm your host, Bonfire, and this is episode number 25. I hope you're all doing well out there. Hope you guys enjoyed the last episode as we finally had our first guest on the show, which was so much fun. Shout out to Legend of Cotton for joining the show, talking Call of Duty. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode because it was a lot of fun catching up with him, talking video games, and like I said, having the first guest on the podcast. Now I'm recording this episode super early. It is actually the morning of July 31st. I made myself a little bit of cold brew coffee to kind of get me through talking into this microphone this morning. It's just been so hot out. Normally I like to, start my Sunday mornings with some espresso, because I don't know about you guys, but espresso is awesome. But it's been so damn hot. We've had here in the Pacific Northwest like a week straight of 100+ degree weather, and that's unusual out here. Gotta say, usually we get a couple days of 100 degrees here and there. Not a big deal. I can survive. But it's been a week straight. And I just need something to cool me down a little bit, So that's what's going through. But like I said, I'm recording early because this episode won't go live until, August 8th, I believe. So that's when you'll be listening to this. And the reason for that is I'm actually getting ready to head out on a vacation, heading out of town. The wife and I are traveling to Hawaii, and I am beyond excited for that. So this is a long time coming for my wife and I. And because we were originally going to go pre-COVID, like right before COVID hit. That's when we were thinking about going. And, well, we all know how that story goes. So now that things are, somewhat normal, we finally decided to take the opportunity to go. And this is something my wife and I have been talking about for a very long time. So I am super excited because we've both been to one of the islands, but that was, not together. That was before we were together. And so, we finally get to go together. And I'm super excited, very excited, just to relax, hit the beach, and just enjoy paradise over in Hawaii. So looking forward to that. So I decided to do this episode early to make sure we don't miss an episode. So this likely will be a shorter, smaller episode, as I want to really just touch on one major topic. We'll get into that here shortly. Now, for those of you that are new to the show or the uninitiated, remember, the best way you can support the show is to drop a comment and leave a rating on whatever podcast platform you are consuming on. It helps us get into the algorithms and helps people find the show. Also, share it with your friends. That's super helpful. You're able to do that, and through podcast services like this one, Podbean, which is my main podcast service that I go through. I believe you can use the RSS feed to kind of feed it into whatever listener you want to. I believe that's an option. Also, if you're on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. You can join me over on Locals, the Patreon alternative platform, the GameSiteChronicles.locals.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Gamecite Podcast. And remember, new episodes of the show go live each and every week, Mondays at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, before we get into it, I did have a couple of folks leave me some comments on YouTube that I wanted to address here and talk about it just for a real brief second, because I do appreciate it when you guys drop me comments, whether it be on YouTube, podcast platforms, whatever. Love it when you write into the show because I want to get you guys into the show as much as possible. And so, friend of the show, Rob, left us a comment on a recent episode where we talked about GameStop. And it's a lengthy comment, but I want to read it because I think it's an interesting perspective, and I think a lot of people actually fall into this camp. So Rob writes in and says, "Good episode. I rarely visit GameStop anymore because at one time I was heavily into older games that were overpriced when still new / unopened, and like you, I'm a gamer first. Crazy as it sounds, I was almost always still buying the digital versions of the same games. Since selling my collection, I'm almost 100% digital, except for Switch games. Maybe because they're smaller, and when owning a lot, that matters." If I go into GameStop, it's to window shop to see if there are any games if there are any games I'm unaware of. And then I buy them on Amazon, usually while I'm in the store. For a while, I had a great relationship with the employees at GameStop I frequented, but GameStop isn't kind to their workers, and over time, most left. And their replacements weren't the same quality in terms of customer service. The economics of buying a used newer game, has always factored into my buying at GameStop. The game companies get zero money on a used game sale, and looking long term, I always felt it was important to pay full price so the developers and publishers get paid instead of GameStop. That gives game creators more of a chance to stay afloat and keep making games. Eventually, GameStop will go the way of Blockbuster after streaming services become ubiquitous. Not sure what business model will fill the void, if any, but GameStop in its current iteration can't last. Again, great episode. Keep them coming. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate the kind words. And first of all, I know it's been a little bit since we've caught up, but I'm sad to hear about your game collection because you had a serious amount of games. I mean, we're talking like probably over thousands. But I think you bring up a couple good points here in the fact that, first of all, the money, the economics part, right? When you do buy used games, I mean that money doesn't go to the publisher. They've already had, I guess, the original sale, and they're not getting anything from this second sale. And so I think that's an important point because I like the idea of supporting the developers, publishers. If you like their games, you want them to continue making games. And for a lot of these companies, money speaks. That's the language they talk. So it's important to use your wallet and send a message, whether that's, hey, I love this, make more of it and buy it, or I don't want you to do this, or I don't like what you're doing here and don't buy it. Those are all ways we can kind of vote with our wallet. And you hear that term kind of used, and I think that's important to consider, especially when it comes to used games. We talk about the customer service, and I this applies really to anywhere, but I think it's an important point that if a company isn't treating their employees well, I mean, they're eventually going to leave, right? And that, like, for a lot of people, I would say more, I hesitate to say this, but it seems like more old school people, maybe like older millennials and then older than that, there's something to be appreciated about good customer service. Now, I can't speak to some of the younger generations, but I know that the way they interact, purchase games, purchase goods really is more digital and less human interaction. So I'm not sure that customer service aspect is super important to them. But I know for older folks and kind of older millennials in older generations, I think that is an important factor, to have that customer service. And there are some people that love that, or like going into your local grocery store and maybe, like one of the cashiers or something, and that's like, you just get to catch up with them. And I don't know, there's something to be said about good customer service. And if you don't have that, that's kind of a ding on your business. I think it's an important aspect, even into this digital age, though it can come in different forms, right? With UI, I think UX, UI design is super important to your platforms, and having good customer support service. So being able to kind of resolve those issues, take care of your customers, and get them, back on their way, take care of what they need. It's super important. So maybe not that face-to-face interaction, so much in the digital age, but I think having good customer service is very important. So I think that's an interesting point. So I wanted to bring that up. I appreciate you writing in, Rob, and I think it's a couple interesting points that you made there. Now, another individual wrote into the show, albeit on one of my YouTube shorts. If you haven't checked those out, be sure to head over youtube.com/Gamecite and check those out. Sometimes I do podcast clips on there. Sometimes I just do quick little videos. I like to do the unboxings when I get something new, so those certainly make it some of my favorite videos to do, by the way. I used to do a bunch on YouTube back in the day. They're so much fun. But he wrote in response to a podcast clip from, now to be 2 episodes ago, when we touched on The Last of Us, Part 1, and its upgrades, and dabbled a little bit into the price point. And so Mouse in Your House wrote in. He said, "These are not valid improvements. It's a cash grab. Don't be an idiot to think that just because you add a few things, it warrants getting a remake. Games are stale right now. They keep churning out the remakes and upgrades. It's lazy garbage." No, Mouse in Your House, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. And I will respond to you on YouTube by the time you hear this. But I have to disagree with that first point, that these are not valid improvements. I think with The Last of Us Part 1, I'm going to keep going back to that 10-minute video that they put out. I think they are valid improvements. There's a lot of work being done, with AI, with the character models, the environments. There's a ton of work that's being done. The thing is I think a lot of that work is going to largely go unnoticed because it's going to make you more immersed into the game. And therefore, a lot of people will take it for granted. I think that's one piece of it. I think the other piece of it is that I think a lot of people were expecting the gameplay elements from The Last of Us Part 2 to be in this game. And that's, from what I can tell, clearly not the case. And that's got people up in arms. And so I can understand that argument in being upset about that and not wanting to pay full price. One of the things I've kind of come around to regarding the price is it's not the full package, in the sense that when The Last of Us Remastered came out on PlayStation 4, you got the main story, the Left Behind DLC, and the multiplayer factions. And that, I think I'm pretty sure they charge full price for that, if I remember correctly. It's like, okay, you're getting everything though. Now this time around, the third time around, you're getting the single player game, the main story, Left Behind DLC, but no multiplayer factions. That entire section of that game is gone. And we understand it's because they're working on the standalone factions. I get it. But at the same time, you're not getting the full package. So it is missing something from the original game. And it's, from that perspective, I can see the argument why, like, okay, maybe not full price. So does this game warrant a remake? I've said it before. I don't think so. I think The Last of Us Remastered on PS4 is totally fine. I don't think this game needs to be remade at all. But they're doing it, so that is what it is. So I hear you, but I just disagree with that there's not valid improvements. Now, whether or not you're willing to pay $70, that's a different conversation, and my guess is you're not. And I understand that. I think that's fair. I think there's a lot of people that sit kind of in that camp. And that's where I'm of the mind that, the market will decide that. If that's too high of a price point, not a lot of people are going to buy it. And they'll clearly get the message for that, right? We just talked about making your voice heard with your wallet. I think we'll see what happens with this game. Now, you say games are stale right now. They keep churning out the remakes and upgrades. Now, there are a lot of, remakes and upgrades and stuff like that kind of within the industry. And, that's a fair assumption, but games are stale right now. I got to disagree with that too, man. I feel like there's tons of games that are coming out, and there's games out there for everyone. Lots of different things to play right now. I mean, there's a lot of great games in the free-to-play space if you're into that. I think if you're on, depending on the platform that you're on, I think there's quite a bit of things to offer. Now, I will say on the Xbox camp, if you're looking for kind of first-party exclusives, I could see that being applicable because there's kind of a lack of first-party exclusive on there, though there's an abundance of games on Game Pass, albeit quite a bit of fodder on there. But nonetheless, there's still lots to play. So, and actually what we're going to get into in this podcast episode is that we're going to look at the rest of 2022 again and talk about some of the biggest games coming out for the rest of the year. And I think there's some bangers coming out. I think there's a lot to look forward to. So just keep your head up, man. I don't know what kind of games you're into. Feel free to write in. I can give you some recommendations if you like, but I think there's quite a bit out there. So again, Mouse in Your House, I appreciate the comment. and you writing in, albeit maybe we don't see eye to eye, but that's okay. So, for this week's podcast episode, I wanted to dive into the rest of 2022. I want to look at and we've done this a little bit, and we did it from the sense of let's look at console exclusive or platform exclusives for each of the main consoles. And there were quite a few games coming out. But rather with that lens, I want to let's look at some of the biggest games coming out for the rest of this year. And I got a list in front of me. But then I want to ask the question, does this game have a chance to be game of the year and beat what is presumably everyone's unanimous game of the year, Elden Ring? So that's the question I want to answer. Try to answer today is what game, if any, has a chance to dethrone Elden Ring for 2022's game of the year. So that's what we're going to dive into. Now, normally, before we get into that, we would talk about the games that we're playing. But given that, just 2 days ago I recorded the previous episode, we talked about the games we're playing. I haven't really played much since then. And so, remember, first of all, right into the show, let me know what games you're playing. We'll get that into this segment. But I'll tell you this, for the games that I'm playing, I want to try to beat Ghostwire Tokyo before I head out of town. But while I'm out of town, I'm bringing Live Alive with me on my Switch. So I'm bringing the Switch. I'm bringing that game. I'm excited to play it. I'm going to jump into that game. Probably play some on the plane. Probably a little bit in the airport. And when we're just chilling in the hotel room, I imagine that'll be my go-to entertainment. So I'm sure I'll have more to report after I dive into that game in the next episode, which will be, August 15th, if my calendar is accurate. So with that, let's just dive into the main topic. Which game can take down Elden Ring as 2022's game of the year? So the way I kind of want to do this is, as I mentioned, I've got a list of what I think are the biggest kind of AAA tier games coming out, starting with kind of mid-July through the end of December. And I know by the time this comes out, we'll be through July, but I think there's a couple of games that I kind of wanted to touch on to go through. So we'll go through this list, and I'll talk a little bit about the game, but also the main thing we want to ask is, will it dethrone Elden Ring? Because like I said, I think we can all pretty much unanimously say that Elden Ring is the game to beat for 2022 Game of the Year. Now, I've played a little bit of Elden Ring, as we talked about. I want to say I played like 40-ish hours I put into that game. And I haven't come back to it in quite a while. And I've liked Elden Ring. There's nothing wrong with it. I just think it's not capturing me the way I thought it would. And I don't want to kind of force my way through a game. I think there's a couple factors here as to why I've kind of stepped away from that game for now, because I will certainly come back to it. But I think part of it is, you guys remember back in February where we had 3 AAA open world games launch in the matter of like 3 weeks? Y'all remember that? Yeah, we had Dying Light 2, Horizon Forbidden West, and then Elden Ring. And I was looking forward to all 3 of those games. And they all just happened to land in the same month. Gah, sucks. But man, was it a month for games. Holy shite. What a month. And so when Dying Light 2 came out, I hopped right into it. I probably put in 30-ish hours into it before Horizon Forbidden West came out. And then I was like, I have to jump into this game. I was very much looking forward to that. So I jumped into that game. And then a week later, Elden Ring came out. I was like, I want to play through Horizon before I even touch Elden Ring. I've got to, because I can't juggle all these games at the same time, especially big open world games. And so I did. I put in probably over 80 hours into Horizon Forbidden West. Then I jumped into Elden Ring and put in, 30-ish, 30 to 40 hours. I would say it was more like 40-ish hours into that game over time. And I kind of just got a little bit burnt out with open world games. Just a little bit. because those 3 games back to back to back, putting in quite a bit of hours, and knowing how big Elden Ring is, I was just like, I need a break. I got to play something else. I got to cleanse the palate, if you know what I mean. And so that's one reason why I've kind of stepped away. But I think the other thing is I just don't really have the patience for it right now. as a as I mentioned before, my gaming time is a little bit limited. Kind of sometimes I get longer sessions. A lot of times I kind of get a little stint here, a little stint there, then kind of squeeze into my schedule. So Elden Ring is it's just not one of those games you can kind of hop in and hop out fairly easily, especially with it being online. Like there's no pause either, which I dislike that. I wish you could just pause it. But I get because of the online stuff. I don't think you can. But so with that, a combination of not necessarily having the patience and time for it right now is kind of pushed me away from that game. And I think the last thing is, and it kind of goes along with the patience, is that the openness of this game, which is, don't get me wrong, is fantastic and definitely one of the best features about it, it's kind of led me to the point to where I kind of get lost, and sometimes I feel like I don't make a sense of progression, and it's a little discouraging. I always like having a sense of progression when I sit down to play a game because my gaming time is so limited. I want to make sure and have that I'm making progress in a game, and sometimes I don't always feel that with Elden Ring. So those are kind of some factors here that kind of push me away from the game just for now. But like I said, I do want to come back to it. But I do think there's no doubt that this is the game to beat for Game of the Year. Now, is it my Game of the Year right now? No, because like I said, I haven't beat it, so I don't feel comfortable saying that, yeah, this is my definitive Game of the Year. But like I said, I do want to come back to it. But it's mainstream success. I want to say it's well over 12 million sold. Oops, sorry about that. That's my coaster. Well over 12 million sold it's like first 2 months or something like that is just insane. And this game is just, it's gone viral. It's gone viral. So this is the game to beat. So let's go through the list here, game by game, and ask, will it beat Elden Ring? Now, the first one I want to start with is Stray. This is the PS5 PC exclusive from Annapurna Interactive. Came out July 19th. And I want to touch on this one just because this game seems to have encapsulated a lot of people. A lot of people really seem to be enjoying this game. Now, this game is also day and date on the PS Plus, I think one of the higher tier services. So you could play it there. I'm curious what their sales look like. But a lot of people seem to be enjoying this game. And for me, this game has never really looked interesting. I don't know, like the idea of playing a cat, wandering around, I don't know, it just didn't speak to me. And maybe that's because I'm not really a cat person, but a lot of people seem to have enjoyed this game, and some people have even thrown it on their Game of the Year list. So I kind of feel compelled to bring this into the conversation. Now, this game sits on Metacritic with a critic score of 84 and a user score of 8.8. So that's a pretty favorable user score, I've got to say. So like I said, a lot of people seem to be really enjoying this game. And I think it's going to be one of those games where it just kind of hit at the right time. It did see some level of kind of mainstream success. Got a lot of people talking about it, a lot of people streaming it, and a lot of people playing it. And so the question is this a Game of the Year contender? And I feel like this will be in the conversation for Game of the Year. Is it a Game of the Year? I don't know. If you've played it, let me know what you think of it. But I think just the way people have been talking about the game, the way it's kind of seen some level of mainstream success, both critically and, well, we don't know commercially, but I feel like it will be in the conversation. Now, will it overtake Elden Ring? I don't think so. I don't think you can. A game like this, kind of a smaller, almost like an indie title, though it's not really an indie title, but kind of just a smaller game, I don't think can kind of stand up to a giant like Elden Ring. But I do think it could be one of those games that are included in the nominations, though. So this is a really interesting one. Just really, really interesting. Like a couple of reviews here. Stray is an indie adventure that could be a AAA game. Casts a cat as a main character and focuses on exploration and puzzles. Not only has a super fab technical production. Where did that go? It also has an entertaining gameplay and a touching message. The problem, when you finish it, it will leave you wanting more. It's not very long. I left at a 90. I actually love the fact that it's not long. I was looking on how long to beat, and it's only approximately 6 hours. Love it. I love short experiences like that. We need more of them. But yeah, Stray. I don't know. A lot of people seem to be loving it. I'd like to play it at some point. But that's one that I think will be in the conversation, but I'm not going to take over Elden Ring. Next game on my list is Live Alive. Now, I've talked about how excited I am to play this one. I'm going to jump into it here on my trip. This one came out July 22nd. I finally got my copy. And this game originally came out 28 years ago. Believe that or not. What is it? 1994, I think is when it came out. Now, it never came to the West. So this is the first time we're getting it in the West, which is very, very exciting. But then they remade it with the HD 2D, kind of the Octopath Traveler graphics, which are awesome. And I haven't seen a lot of reviews on this. Let's check out what it sits at on Metacritic here. Okay, so it's sitting on a critic score of 82 and a user score of 8.3. So that's still pretty good, I'd say. And I feel like this is going to be really a niche game for a lot of folks. It is a Switch exclusive, and I think it's going to be one of those games that people that actually play it and or are JRPG fans are really going to like it. But it's not going to have that kind of mainstream viral success. You know what I mean? And I was actually watching one of my favorite YouTubers that I occasionally catch up on his videos, Happy Console Gamer, which I was thinking it would be awesome to actually like sit down and have a conversation with him about gaming. Like he's just a wealth of knowledge. And I love his passion. If you haven't checked him out, check him out. He's so passionate in all of his videos when he talks about games. And it's contagious. It's just so positive and contagious. Love it. But he was talking about this game, kind of doing some first impressions and stuff. And I mean, he's a very, I would say, an aficionado when it comes to, old school games and JRPGs. And he was talking about this is like one of his favorite games this year and potentially his game of the year thus far. And I think for people that are kind of in that camp where they like JRPGs, they like role-playing game, classic role-playing games, I think this is going to be one of those games on the folks' list where it's like, yeah, this is one of the best games I've played this year. So I certainly think it's going to be up there. Now, again, question is, will it dethrone Elden Ring for Game of the Year? No. I don't think this game has a chance to do that. No, again, this is going to be one of those games where I think it's going to be a great game. I think a lot of people are going to have it on their lists. But when we talk about mainstream, Game of the Year awards, at the Game Awards type of thing, it's not going to have that same level of mainstream success. I mean, this game, at the time I'm recording, it's been out for just over a week. And, it's come and gone, so to speak. And this next game is actually seems to be much bigger. So speaking of that next game, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 comes out July 29th. So it came out, a couple days ago at the time of recording. And this game seems to be doing very well. It's, I believe, is on top of the eShop charts. It's sitting at a Metacritic score of 89. User score of 7.5, which I think is interesting. But an 89 Metacritic score. I know it's been getting kind of 9s and 10s from some of the mainstream outlets, which makes sense why it's sitting at 89. And a lot of people seem to be enjoying this game. First of all, I gotta say, I really need to get into these games because it looks so freaking cool. I have no idea what the hell's going on. Like, it makes no sense to me. I look at these games and I'm like, this is all nonsense, but I love it and I want to get into it. I just gotta find time. I keep talking. This series keeps coming up on this podcast. I just need to dive into it. I just need to do it. Anywho, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I think this is going to be another one of those games where a lot of people are going to love this, are going to fall in love with it. It's going to be one of the best games they play this year. And it's going to be on folks' Game of the Year list for sure. Now, will it take down Elden Ring, though? I think this game isn't going to take down Elden Ring, but I think it's going to be in the conversation of Game of the Year. Just because it seems to be doing well. A lot of people seem to be enjoying it. They seem to be encapsulated by it. And I really feel like with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, this game is kind of where this franchise is hitting its strides. It seems like with each iteration of the game, it's getting more and more popular, kind of hitting that mainstream success. Similar to what we've seen, I would say, with Persona. With Persona 3, I don't think there's a ton of people that played on there. Persona 3 Portable seemed, to have its following. Persona 4 Golden is when it started to get mainstream, when it hit the Vita. A lot of people were kind of word of mouth talking about how great that game was. But it didn't really hit that mainstream viral success until Persona 5, right? And so I feel like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is getting there. This might be the Persona 4 Golden for this game. Or maybe it's at Persona 5 levels. I don't know. I kind of sit outside of this fandom with Xenoblade Chronicles, but it just seems like one of those franchises where it's getting more and more popular. More and more people are kind of looking over at this game and franchise being like, this looks kind of cool, myself included. So I feel like this game is doing pretty well. And it seems to be doing pretty well. So I do think it will be in the conversation and in a contender, but not going to overtake Elden Ring. Continuing on my list, we have Saints Row, the new Saints Row, which comes out August 23rd. Which for some reason I thought this game was coming out in September, but apparently it's August. And it's really the only big game I saw in kind of the AAA quality that's coming out in August. Now, I've talked about this game, and I think I'm excited for it. And, when they kind of showed off some of that in-depth gameplay, I was like, okay, this game actually looks like a ton of fun. And I actually recently watched, because I know they did a bunch of play sessions with, big YouTubers and media outlets and stuff like that, so they could kind of give their first impressions. And I watched one of them from a YouTuber named SkillUp. Maybe you guys have probably heard of him. He's huge. An Australian YouTuber. And he does a lot of good work, by the way. He's really great at reviewing games and does a really great job. So I highly recommend you check out his channel. But he was talking about the game, giving some impressions, and showing off some of the technical aspects and kind of in-depth talking about some of the mechanics and stuff like that. And the way he kind of talked about it, it kind of tempered my expectations a bit, in the sense that it's kind of more of the same of what we've had from previous Saints Row, albeit, different characters, different environment settings and stuff like that. And so it's not, the way he kind of positioned it is not really a reboot, because there's not much that's changed here, but it's still fun. Like, I think he was saying that I think a lot of people are still going to really enjoy this game. It's just a fun sandbox to play in. And so I feel like it kind of tempered my expectations a little bit. Kind of bummed to see maybe there's not really a ton of new ideas, at least from what he's played. Maybe there are, and they just didn't get access to it yet. But then it's kind of funny too, because I was actually watching, I just stumbled across another Saints Row video where someone else had gotten to play the game, do some impressions. But the way this guy put together the video was hilarious, because he did it in a sense that he was just kind of chronicling what he was doing in the game, but in a very comedic way. Like for example, he was talking about whatever he was doing in the game. So like they were going to like rob a bank or something, right? So he's talking about robbing the bank. They had to make rent or whatever. And in his getaway car, he was talking about how each of his his crew, they all took separate getaway cars, and then he got into some big wreck. He was driving through like a cemetery and saying he had to get like an exorcism afterwards, which he's joking, by the way. And then he finally met up with his team, and they all drove away in the same car. And he's like, well, I don't know why we didn't just drive all in the same car, but hey, this is what we did. So just the way he was talking about it and kind of narrating his gameplay in a very sarcastic, comedic way was kind of hilarious. I actually really enjoyed it. But as I'm watching this game, though, I'm thinking, this looks fun. It just looks like a blast to play. And so I still am looking forward to this game. Will I get it day one? I don't know. We'll see what I'm playing around that time when it comes out this next month. But I am looking forward to it. Now, the question is with this one, will it be a Game of the Year contender and take down Elden Ring? No, I don't think this game has a fat chance in hell. If I'm being completely honest, don't think it does. I think this is going to be a game where I think a lot of people are going to have fun with it. I think it's going to kind of hit that market that people are clamoring for a game like GTA, because we haven't had a GTA in a while. It's all been GTA Online. So I think this is going to hit that market. I think a lot of people are going to have fun with it. I think it'll sell decently. I do think there are going to be some folks that complain about it, but this isn't going to be a Game of the Year style of game, at least from what I can tell. Next on my list, and I felt compelled to put it on the list because it is a big AAA game, is Last of Us Part 1. Comes out September 2nd. Now, like I said, I put this on the list because it's a big AAA game coming out. I know quite a few of us, myself included, have already played this game. This is the third time it's being released. It is a PlayStation exclusive for the PS5. And I think we all know this game is a masterpiece. But it's excluded from Game of the Year. This is a remake, right? This can't be Game of the Year. So I bring it up just to say, hey, this game's coming out. It's something for folks to play. And if you haven't even played The Last of Us at all, bro, play it. It's truly, truly wonderful. But not in the conversation with Game of the Year, because we all know it's good. Okay, it's good. After that is a game called Steel Rising, which comes out September 8th. I've talked about this game a little bit when they dropped some gameplay video. This is that action RPG where it takes place during the kind of this alternate history French Revolution. So it's set in France, not French. And you play an automaton, like a robot, that's going up against the king of France, his robot army. And you're trying to help the people. Viva la Revolution type of thing. So really cool premise, actually. I kind of dig that. And it seems to be in the kind of Dark Souls-ish vein. So kind of interesting there. But, and I've said this game, I think it looks really cool. I'm excited for it. Will I play it day one? Probably not, because I'll be into another game or two, I imagine, during that time period. But I do want to get to it at some point, because I do think it looks cool. Now, these are done by I think it's the same devs who did Greedfall. Let's see. Yeah, so these guys did Greedfall. They did the Technomancer. Actually, quite a few other games. And those games they seem to be kind of in this like almost double A space. So not quite triple A, but not, definitely above indie. But Steel Rising looks awesome. I think it looks really, really cool. So we'll see how it does when it comes out. Their games kind of seem to have some level of jank to them, or just there's some, just a little bit. Not that I've played in them, I'll be honest. Just that's kind of what I've perceived in watching some of the gameplay. But this one looks pretty dang cool. Now the question, Game of the Year? No, don't think so. Unless this game just blows it out of the water. Don't think this is going to be one that's going to be in the conversation for Game of the Year. I think this is going to kind of like Greedfall. I think it's going to find a little audience. I think folks are going to generally like it. I imagine this game will come out with some technical issues. So we'll see. But I think it looks interesting. If you haven't checked it out and you like the Dark Souls games, I would say check it out. Check out our trailer and let me know what you think. After that, coincidentally, a day later, Splatoon 3 comes out. September 9th. This is one I am very much looking forward to. And this is that thinking back actually now, this is why I will not pick up Still Rising day one because of Splatoon 3. I love Splatoon. I don't know, you know, Splatoon is just so good. And I remember when Splatoon came out, the original Splatoon on the Wii U, and it was one of those games where like, oh, this looks cool. I'll pick it up. I'll give it a go. And I just fell in love with it. And this is one of those the few multiplayer games that I just am. I regularly come back to Splatoon 2 multiplayer because it's so much fun. It's so simple in that you're just trying to cover the ground with your color ink and do more of your ink than the opponent's ink. It's a very simple concept, but it's so much fun. And the matches are just quick or one after another. I think they're like 3 minutes long. And it's fast paced. It's fun. There's a ton of weapons. There is a little bit of skill involved, and you can kind of make it as complicated as you want, I guess, if that's even the right term. But it's so good. It's so fun. And the fact that with Splatoon 2, they added the co-op mode, Salmon Run. I'm super looking forward to Splatoon 3. Now, Splatoon 3 is interesting because it seems like one of those games where it's kind of just more of the same. Like, do we really need a sequel to Splatoon 2? Because it seems like it's just more of Splatoon 2. But the one thing that kind of leaves me questioning the game is the single-player campaign. We haven't really heard much about it. So, has it changed? Has they evolved the campaign? I think that's a question a lot of us have. Because the multiplayer seems like more of the same. That's a good thing. And seems they've done some improvements to Salmon Run, the co-op mode, which is awesome. That mode's really, really fun. So the question is, how's the campaign? How's the single-player campaign? And what are they doing here to warrant a new game? We'll see. Now, the question is, Game of the Year? No, I just don't think so. Unless the campaign does something absolutely mind-blowing and it's kind of the word of mouth gets this game to go viral or something, this game doesn't have a chance of that. So that's what that is. Later in September, we have the Dialfield Chronicle. This is that strategy RPG coming from Square Enix. And we saw this at one of the State of Plays earlier this year. I talked about how I think this game looks really, really cool. Because it's that, but it's kind of got that has like a real-time strategy system. Where it's not necessarily turn-based, but I think it looks really cool. And I'm a sucker for these style of games where it's just the art style and it just looks really, really cool. And I'm looking forward to it. This is another one where I'm definitely looking forward to it. However, I think they're coming out with a demo in August, so this month, I guess, by the time you hear this. And so I want to try out the demo to see if this game is going to kind of live up to the expectations I have of it in my head, and see if I kind of like this battle system. So I think this is a cool one coming from Square Enix. Again, Square Enix getting back to what they do best. So, the Dialfield Chronicle, Game of the Year. Again, I don't think this one has a chance, unless the story is just something spectacular that no one sees coming. Again, I just don't think this is going to be a game where it's going to have that kind of viral mainstream success that we saw in Elden Ring, which is, even if it's one of the best games to come out this year, if it doesn't have that factored in, you're not gonna compete. So this is another one where, sorry, just ain't happening. After that, Square Enix hits again, September 29th, a week later, with Valkyrie Elysium. And this is the next game in the Valkyrie series, the Valkyrie Profile series, I believe it is. And I think a lot of folks are looking forward to this one if you've played those games. This is another one of those games that kind of seems like a kind of a niche RPG in the sense that, Valkyrie Profile has its old school followers, and I think there are quite a few people that enjoyed those games and are excited to see it come back. But again, I don't think this is going to be one of those games that have that kind of mainstream success factor tied to it. So, Game of the Year? Nah, I don't think so. And again, it goes back to, I think, that viral factor. I think it'll be an interesting game, and who knows, it could have the best story of any game this year or something like that, but Just don't think it's going to have that wow factor. After that, we have Overwatch 2. And I keep forgetting that this game is coming out this year. This game comes out October 4th. And I don't know, Overwatch 2, to me, this just seems like a game like, why does this exist? I mean, you could make the same argument, I think, with Splatoon 3. And it seems like more of the same. And I think the thing with Overwatch 2 is that it's got everything of Overwatch 1 has, but then just more content. Like, I think there's this very generic campaign, like single player mode, obviously more characters, more maps. I think that's it. I mean, I'm not a big Overwatch fan, so you tell me if I'm wrong there. But that, you know, that's if that's it, then like, what does this really warrant a sequel? I think that's kind of the question. I think a lot of people actually have that question for that game. But here's the thing: the first Overwatch was Game of the Year in 2016 when that launched, and I remember that I played a little bit of Overwatch. I think it's fun. Again, not really my cup of tea, but it's certainly fun. And I thought it was a pretty good, FPS multiplayer game. Again, I'm playing on console. This is a console gaming podcast. I get on PC. It's, the competitive sphere and all that stuff. No, I'm not about that life. But with Overwatch 2, I mean, here's a game that's its previous game was Game of the Year. And now we're getting a sequel that doesn't seem like a lot of people really feel like a sequel is warranted. So this is a weird one. It's going to be interesting to see how this game does when it comes out. Now, will this game dethrone Elden Ring? I don't think so. Again, unless this game has a trick up its sleeve, this seems like more Overwatch, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But again, does this game really need a sequel? And also, let's not forget, I think this game has had some development troubles. We know over at Activision Blizzard, there's been a lot going on with, some of the accusations that have come out with sexual improprieties, some of the legal trouble they've been in, and then now with the, Xbox acquisition, there's a lot going on over there at Activision Blizzard, and we'll see how this game does. I mean, to be honest, I think, I don't know, I just kind of get the sense that a lot of people are just kind of done with Overwatch. And this is one of those games where you're not really selling us on a sequel because there doesn't seem to be anything here that's worthy of a sequel. So I don't think this game has a chance against Elden Ring. After that, a few days later, we have Marvel's Midnight Suns that comes out October 7th. And I think this is a big game that a lot of people are looking forward to. Obviously, it's Marvel, so it's tied to that name. That's big in and of itself. But I got to be honest with this game. I have no idea what this game is. Now, I believe it's from the same guys that did XCOM, and it's of that style. But I haven't seen any gameplay of it, so I have no idea what we're doing here. Like, maybe I've just missed it because, I don't know, I'm not super into Marvel. A little burnt out, a little superhero fatigue, I guess. But like, what is this game? Like, I don't know what it is. Genuinely. Like, I know the premise, but like, I haven't seen anything or what the story is or anything like that. So maybe I'm ignorant, but I have no idea what to expect from this game. So, Game of the Year? I don't think so. Nothing I've seen or heard of tells me is giving me any indication that this will even be close to the conversation for Game of the Year, let alone dethrone Elden Ring. So, there's that. After that, also in October, we have the sequel to A Plague Tale Requiem. Comes out October 18th. And this is one I'm looking for. I'm not going to get this game day one, I'll be candid. But I am looking forward to this, having recently just played A Plague Tale Innocence. So I want to see where the story goes and how much they're going to improve the gameplay. Because I do think that was one of the weaker points, at least the combat, I should say, in the first game. So with the sequel, does seem much improved. I do think there's some excitement around this game. And I expect this game to do pretty well. I think it's also coming day and date to Game Pass. So if you are a Game Pass subscriber, you can look forward to that. So, is this a game of the year contender? I don't I don't think so. I don't think this will be a game of the year contender. Now, I think this could be in the conversation maybe for an award or two in an area, because it seems like, maybe the soundtrack or some of the animation design or some of the environment work could maybe fit into one of those categories and maybe be a nominated game for that. But I don't feel like this game is going to be up there in the conversation. Now, again, I could be wrong. If this game has something up its sleeve and it just delivers this, phenomenal story with much improved gameplay mechanics and combat design and all that, then maybe it has a chance to slip into that conversation. But I don't think this game has a chance at all to dethrone Elden Ring because, again, it's that viral factor, right? I don't think a Plague Tale is going to have that uber viral factor. 2 days later after that, still in October, man, October is a jam-packed month. We have Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. And this is one I'm looking forward to. Yes, sir. Mario and Rabbids. Like I said, and I've talked about this before, Mario and Rabbids is phenomenal. The first Mario Rabbids is one of the best games on the Switch. Hands down. Such a gem that I don't think anybody saw coming. So we're finally getting a sequel, Sparks of Hope. And, oh man, I can't wait. I think this game is going to be awesome. Now, the question is, does this game have a chance for Game of the Year? I do think this game has a chance to be in the conversation for Game of the Year. Now, here's what's going to work against the game, though. I think what helped the game be as successful as it was the first time around is that no one really had expectations for that game. Because everyone saw Mario plus Rabbids, weird combination in and of itself, but then you're turning it into this almost like XCOM style strategy game. What? Or like tactical RPG or whatever. What? That doesn't make sense. And so a lot of people just had no expectations, I think, going into this, myself included. But then what we found was an exceptional game that is a ton of fun to play. And that this combination, this weird combination between Mario and Rabbids works very well. And it was awesome. And so now going into this sequel, we kind of have that expectation level set. So if it can't meet that expectation level that we kind of already have set from the first game, then no, this game has no chance to be in the Game of the Year conversation. But if it does and or exceeds that, I do think it has a chance to be in the conversation for Game of the Year. And I do think it could be one of those games where it's going to be on people's list like, yeah, this is one of the best things I played this year was Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. So, I like I said, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to dive into it when it comes out on October 20th. After that, still in October, we have Gotham Knights, the next Arkham-style game from, not Rocksteady, but that other one. It's from one of the other studios at Warner Brothers. I can't remember the name escapes me as I'm recording here. But this game's been a long time in development. Long time. Because I think the last game, because these are the same guys that made Arkham Origins, the often forgotten Batman Arkham game. And actually, I've never played Arkham Origins. I have it. I actually have the game right behind me, my PS3 copy. But I've never played it. And I want to, because it seems interesting. But yeah, that's the last game I think they released, was Arkham Origins, which is back in like 2013, 2012, something like that, a long time ago. And so here we are. Finally, their game's coming out, Gotham Knights. We've seen some gameplay of it. And I got to be honest, I don't know. I'm not looking forward to this game, really. And that's weird because I love the Arkham games. Genuinely. I think they're great. But with this, I don't know, the co-op mode never really interested me. because I would have played it solo. But I think what's kind of turning me off from this game is the the fighting and kind of the gameplay looks a little old, and it looks like they've shoved a bunch of like looter shooter type stuff in there. Like the Destiny style menus, the numbers everywhere, different gear. You're getting, it's all based on this loot and leveling system. And it's like all these RPG style mechanics kind of being injected in this game. I just really don't feel like it needs it. And I kind of feel like that's going to hinder this game a little bit. Like, why? Why do we need this? So we'll see when the game finally comes out. I'm curious how it does for review wise. I'm also curious how long it is. So, will this game be Game of the Year contender? I don't think so. I don't think this game is going to do that well. I think my bold prediction for this game is I think this game is going to be a little bit of a disappointment for quite a bit of folks. So, we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the game's great. I genuinely do. I hope it's awesome. But man, from what I've seen, I'm not super optimistic. Still in October, we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 on October 28th. This is a big one, obviously. Every Call of Duty game is huge. And Call of Duty is coming out a little bit earlier this year, as we mentioned in last week's episode. And this is the rebooted sequel to the first Modern Warfare trilogy. I don't fully understand it, but this is a big game nonetheless. Now, will this be Game of the Year contender? I don't think so. Again, Call of Duty's every year, man. They come out, they sell millions and millions of copies. Tons of people don't even touch the campaign. They just hop into the multiplayer. And, that's what the series is known for. It's multiplayer in the zombies mode. And largely, the campaigns have kind of gone secondary. Now, it seems like, I got to say, the first Modern Warfare reboot that they did seemed like the campaign was a pretty big focus, and it seemed to be largely well received. I actually do want to play that game. I never picked it up. Man, the Call of Duty games hold their value, let me tell you. Because I was kind of keeping an eye out, like, man, if this game goes like on super sale, maybe I'll pick it up to try out the campaign. But it's still like $50, I think. And for a game that came out, 3 years ago, I just don't really want to pay $50 for a Call of Duty game. So, I don't know. I don't know why they still hold their value, but that'll change with Microsoft and Activision. So, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, it seems like they got something good here with the campaign, and I imagine Modern Warfare 2's campaign will be pretty good, and the multiplayer will be what it is. But it's just kind of one of those games where lately the quality of these Call of Duty games have kind of gone downhill every year. They come out kind of more and more broken, less and less features. And I hope that's not the case with Modern Warfare 2, but I expect it to be the case. And again, even though this game's still going to sell millions and millions of copies, it's just not going to even be in the ballpark, I think, of a Game of the Year contender. Genuinely, I just don't think so. Moving along here, we have Bayonetta 3 that also comes out on October 28th. Really interesting. And what can I say about Bayonetta? Bayonetta is awesome, first of all. But if you remember when Bayonetta 2 came out, gosh, what was it? 2012, I think? Bayonetta 2 on the Wii U. Bayonetta 2 was getting 10 out of 10 scores and was Game of the Year for a lot of folks. I can't remember if it was the Game of the Year in 2012, but I know it was a Game of the Year for some folks and definitely in the conversation. And so with that in mind, I'm kind of thinking, well, Bayonetta 3 has a chance for Game of the Year. Genuinely think so. Now, a couple things to keep in mind here, though, with Bayonetta 3 is Bayonetta 3 had some trouble issues with development. And we know that because this game was announced, when the Switch was announced and came out, like in 2017, right? It's been a long time we've been waiting for this game. 5 years? And Platinum Games isn't really doing that well. Like, they're kind of on the struggle bus. I hope this turns their ship around, I'll be honest. But from what I've seen, it looks good. And hopefully Nintendo, it's going to have that Nintendo quality to it. So I'm looking forward to it, very much so. And I think if it can maintain that quality and be on par with what Bayonetta 2 was, I do think it has a chance to be in the conversation for Game of the Year. And I think it's going to be another one of those games where people are going to play it and they'll be like, yeah, this is one of the best games I've played. This is going to be my Game of the Year. I genuinely think that. Like, if you've never played a Bayonetta game, try them. Like the first Bayonetta game, I think, is on every platform. Bayonetta 2 is obviously Nintendo exclusive. Bayonetta 3 will be Nintendo exclusive. Maybe they'll bring those games like to PC or something elsewhere at a later date. But for now, they're only on the Switch. And they're great. So good. They're so fun to play. So Bayonetta 3, I do think it will be in the conversation. Now, the question is, though, will it take down Elden Ring? Don't think so. And I don't think so mainly for the fact of that viral standpoint. Elden Ring went completely viral in mainstream. Bayonetta just doesn't have that reach. As good as a game as like Bayonetta 2 was, granted, I get it, it was released on Wii U, it still didn't have that mainstream appeal. And while Bayonetta 3 will likely be good, I don't think it's going to have that mainstream appeal that a game like Elden Ring has. Next on the list, coming out November 9th, big one, Big Daddy, God of War Ragnarok. This is a big game. This is obviously Sony's big fall game. This is obviously one of the biggest games to come out, I think, at the end of the year. And a lot of people, I think, are looking forward to this. And with the success of the first one, God of War 2018, there's a high bar to meet with this game. Now, I do think that bar will be met. And with this game, this is a game where I expect this game will be good. I think this game will tell a fantastic story. I think it'll be fun to play. I think it's going to look beautiful. All the rest. I think this game is going to meet all of those and check all those boxes. For me, though, it's just one of those games where it's like I'm not overly excited for it. And it's hard to pinpoint why. And I think part of it is like I know what I'm getting with this game. I loved God of War 2018. I was blown away by it. It's awesome. Great story, emotional story. It's so cool to see this side of Kratos. I love the kind of Norse mythology. Loved it. It had a couple of, maybe design choices that I didn't like, but overall, like I loved it. Definitely worth Game of the Year. And so with the sequel, it's like, yeah, I expect just more of that. And from what I've seen, that's exactly what we're getting. That's not bad at all. But it's just hard to pin, like, there's just nothing that screams like, I'm just so like over the moon for this game. You know what I mean? Hopefully that makes sense. But will this game be Game of the Year? And I think this is the game. This is the game that has a chance to take down Elden Ring. This is clearly going to be in the conversation for Game of the Year. I think a lot of people were saying it's either God of War, Ragnarok, or Starfield that are going to compete with Elden Ring for Game of the Year. And Starfield obviously isn't making it this year, so God of War is the other one. So I think this is it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the one that has the chance. Will it do it? It could. Part of me thinks it won't, just because God of War 2018 won. So maybe they'll want to give it to Elden Ring. But then again, if you think about it, Sekiro won in 2019, a year after God of War. So who knows? But I think this is the game. This is the game that has the best chance. There are still 2 more games on this list, though, that I want to touch on. November 18th, Pokemon Scarlet Violet. The next generation of Pokemon games are upon us, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'll be honest. I do want to try these games out. I probably won't get them at launch, but I want to try them out. I don't know. There's something fun in to get into a Pokemon game. Not every year, not every single one, but kind of like with Call of Duty, you skip a few, you kind of just come in and out every few years. That's kind of how I feel about Pokemon. And I'm a little nostalgic for Pokemon. I was a huge Pokemon fan as a kid. Cards, games, TV show, all of it. It was all about it. Even the movies, like the first Pokemon movie, loved it. So I want to try them out. Now, this is a game that they're going to sell like hotcakes. These Pokemon games are going to sell millions of copies. A lot of people are going to love them. Everyone's going to be streaming it. Will it be game of the year? I don't. Maybe it'll be in the conversation as like one of the best games this year. And for some, absolutely. But it's not going to. God of War or Elden Ring? Nah, it's not going to be up there with those. And the last game on my list, coming out December 2nd, is the Callisto Protocol. I am so looking forward to this game. As I mentioned on the last episode, this is the game I'm most looking forward to this year. That we actually have a release date for. I love Dead Space. This is done by some of the same guys that made Dead Space. It looks very much like Dead Space, almost like an exact copy, just a few changes. But that's awesome. That's exactly what I want. I love it. It looks so damn good. And this is a game where I do think it could be, depending on the story and how solid the gameplay and horror mechanics are, like survival horror mechanics, I think this could be a game that's in the conversation for Game of the Year. 100%. Will it take down Elden Ring or God of War? No, don't think so. Don't think it's going to have that mainstream appeal or that kind of viralness to it. But I do think Callisto Protocol looks awesome. I do expect it to be very good. And I can't wait. It looks so awesome. So good. If you have not heard of this game, check it out. Look it up. And if you like survival horror and or you like Dead Space, you will need to play this game. It looks amazing. And that's it. So to sum it up though, let's see. If we go through the list here, I think there's only a couple of games that I think have a chance to be in the conversation, only one that could take down Elden Ring. So I think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is one that could be in the conversation. I think Mario and Rabbids could be in the conversation. And Bayonetta 3 could be in the conversation. But only God of War Ragnarok, I think, could actually dethrone Elden Ring. And you know what's funny about that list? 3 out of those 4 are Nintendo games. Xenoblade Chronicles, Nintendo exclusive. Mario and Rabbids, Nintendo exclusive. Bayonetta 3, Nintendo exclusive. Dude, if you're a Nintendo Switch fan, you're eating good this year. My gosh. Dude, there's some bangers coming out. That's one of the other reasons why I wanted to go through this list again, because this is a great list. Like, there's a lot of great games here. There's RPGs, there's open world games, there's single player narrative games, there's some multiplayer games in there, survival horror. Like, this is a great list of games. Like, genuinely, I think there's a lot to look forward to for the rest of the year. So that'll do it. That's all I got on this, I guess, lengthy episode of the show. I did not expect to go over an hour here, but I guess I'm good at talking into the microphone by myself. So that'll do it for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed this kind of interstitial episode where we re-examine the game of the year for 2022. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. Be sure to leave us a nice rating on whatever podcast platform you're consuming on. I hope you guys stay cool and stay safe out there. And until next time, I'm Bonfire, and I will see you online.